I say the Peace Corps to me is a man in the corner saloon saying drinks for everybody on me while his own children are home crying for milk.
I would reply to that as an ex-Peace Corps volunteer, that as a mountain woman who uses a corncob pipe has said before on a certain Sunday comic strip, it doesn't make any difference whether their eyes are square or they're round. They are human beings. Wherever they are over the world, they need help. We certainly need to help our people here. I need to help my people here. But it's a world
Why not
thing.
end with that? I need to help my people here. When we have helped our people here, then with good heart and good conscience and good intentions, we can then help our neighbors.
Well, I guess I don't think in the same terms as you do then.
No, you don't. I think in American terms.
I think in terms of humanity as a whole.
Now, you say you think in terms of humanity. I'll give you a startling thought. I think Americans are just as human as anyone else.
Mr. Capp, do you think our professors should be able to censor our readings?
Professors censor your readings? Certainly not. Who the hell do they think they are? Why, they have delusions of power. They think that you go to college to listen to them. Wow. Sure. Let them learn the facts of life from you, children.
Mr. Capp, I have a quote here from L. Mendel Rivers, who's the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. He says that cartoonists who disseminate unfair and untruthful information in cartoons are engaged in a conscious effort to give aid and comfort to the enemy. Would you care to comment on that?
He's entirely right, except that no cartoonist disseminates harmful or misleading information. It happens that we're all honest, straightforward, and truthful. And I wish I could say the same for congressmen.
Do you think that there are enough safeguards built into the Constitution and the laws by which we govern ourselves for young people and old alike to use these means that have been traditional in the United States for many years rather than to go into riots and draft card burnings and things of this nature?
Well, that's one of the clearest, most concise summings up of the rights of the Constitution I've ever heard. However, there is one amendment that needs teeth, because it isn't working, and that is the 14th Amendment. And that is the amendment outlawing involuntary servitude, because we have not outlawed involuntary servitude in this country. For instance, any man on welfare can refuse any job which he deems not commensurate, not with his ability, but with his taste. That you cannot force any man to work at any job which he doesn't want to work at. And yet, every one of us who do work are forced to support that man. That is, I submit, involuntary servitude. And until we do something to protect the forgotten American is the guy who makes $7,000 a year, whose kids work during the summer to get through college, and whose kids go to Vietnam without whining, even though they hate war. That's the forgotten man. This man has no right to arrest or complain about the man who rapes his child or who mugs him on the street. He has no damned right to not support the bum who lies down on his fanny and won't work. This is the man the nation has forgotten, and it's time we remembered him, because he's the strength of the nation. Many of you here have asked me if I have any secret pitch in the laughter. Is there anything I say in it underneath what I seem to be saying? And curious enough, that was a question that began being asked cartoonists about 15 years ago. They discovered half a dozen guys around this country sitting around in their squalid studios with nothing to guide them except fear of their wives and a sense of self-preservation, who reached more Americans more continuously over a greater period of year, who had earned and kept their trust and affection longer than any product of any network or film studio. Half a dozen of them. And they grew scared, and they began asking us questions. We were subjected, all of us, to inquisitions from every type of inquisitorial group, from our local PTA, at least that night they weren't out torturing teachers, to full dress senatorial stuff in Washington. Senators rushed back from investigating poverty at the Folies Bergère just to ask us questions. And the questions were always the same. There were a few general things, and finally came the question every group asked. The question was, do you, who have so much of the trust and confidence and attention of so many Americans over such a long period, do you use this to sneak in a pitch underneath what you seem to be doing? Well, now, for my contemporaries, certainly not guilty is the answer. Certainly Chick Young, who does Blondie, has no secret pitch. He openly and frankly has been warning Americans for 45 years of the perils of suburban marriage. He has spent his whole life trying to discourage it. He hasn't had any luck, but he's still trying. Nothing secret about him. Alan Saunders, who does Mary Worth, has a perfectly open pitch, and that is, don't ever let a nosy old hag like Mary Worth mess up your romance. He's made his meaning perfectly clear. Nothing secret about it. Dick Tracy, Chester Gould, openly and clearly has just one purpose in mind. That's to scare the hell out of everybody. Has no secret pitch, but for myself, I must plead guilty. I do indeed have one. And to tell you about it, I must tell you that I was born in New Haven, Connecticut, on a street called Stevens Street. Now, Stevens Street wasn't the most undesirable street in New Haven. It was simply the least desirable section of the least desirable area in town. But Stevens Street wasn't one of these hopelessly submerged streets. Stevens Street aspired to become a slum. Now, there are many differences between us on Stevens Street, but we all had one great burning ambition in common, and that was to get the hell out of Stevens. That brought us together. Now, there were tiny differences between us. For instance, we Kaplan kids, Kaplan was my maiden name, we Kaplan kids noticed that the Hogan boys who lived upstairs went to synagogue one day late. We noticed that. But we didn't think it made any real difference between us because they seemed to come back with exactly the same message that we got when we went on the proper day. Now, we noticed another thing. We noticed that the spiritual leader of the Hogan family, Rabbi McGovern, although he was a very neat little fella, we noticed, young as we were, that he frequently forgot to wear a necktie.